head on over to For the Culture, where we talk about things that are culturally relevant to us. And this week, that is over on Twitter. So we did a rundown on the sale and the possible implications of Twitter being sold to Elon Musk, who plans to take the company private. Um, if you were a Patreon supporter, you could have gotten in on that conversation. You could still do that by heading over to patreon.com/snobblewestcast. So we're not going to rehash all of that here, but there is one question that I have for you, Brother Tech. With the offer made and accepted by the Twitter board from Elon Musk of the purchasing the social media platform for 44 billion in cash, are you staying or are you going?
Um, the short answer is no. I'm not going anywhere. But that's personal, based on my usage of Twitter, right? I'm not a content creator like that who utilizes Twitter as a main way of creating content um, or communicating with my user base or community, right? We as a show use Twitter to promote and to share content, but we also do that in other places. So if we were to look at our quote unquote numbers, which we probably need to do, but if we were to look at our numbers, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be 90% Twitter, So all that to say, and personally, I don't use Twitter like that, right? So I can comfortably say Twitter is not my main source of content creation or community engagement, right? So that crosses that off the list, right? Um, I don't pay to use Twitter. I don't subscribe to the Twitter Blue, so I'm not getting any additional features that I would be concerned about if I were trying to leave Twitter and go to another platform. I personally recognize Twitter is a free tool. So my input or my influence as to how I feel Twitter should be now and going forward, if and in fact Elon does take control of Twitter, um, is small to zero because I pay zero for Twitter, right? So again, my I don't look at my influence as enough to be that much important for me to feel like, this is a product or a service that if it changes, my opinion of it will be different, right? Um, like I said, ultimately, having said that, I'll probably stay. It'll be interesting to see if there's some major shift. Now, I will say, having said all that, um, I can recognize that the community is what makes Twitter, and there is a large community. Specifically, we'll use Black Twitter for as an example, right? That is a thing in of itself. And Elon Musk taking over Twitter, he at his other companies have had some issues as it relates to race. For instance, there are black Tesla employees who are currently suing or have successfully sued Tesla for some of its racial discrimination practices, right? So it's not a leap, it's not a stretch to say that possibly Elon Musk taking Twitter private, you could make the correlation that some of those, the will feel, people who use Twitter, specifically black folks, would feel like that space is not a space that feels safe to them, right? So that community may feel not safe, not respected, and decide to leave. And honestly, self-serving, I would like to see a community, a platform where different cultures, different societies, different backgrounds, different communities can feel safe. So, for example, if Black Twitter doesn't feel safe, being on Twitter because of the owner and his previous racial discrimination practices, it'd be dope to see something else spawn out of this, right? For just compensate competition sake, for free market safe, because that's what America is, right? If that's the case, then people should feel free and be okay with somebody, a group saying, I don't like Twitter because of the owner. We're going to do our own thing. And this thing turns into something beautiful, right? I would want to see that happen. So if that were the case, then sure, I would be interested in leaving and going to another platform if that is how that community feels, because I'm a part of that community. But other than that, I don't. I'm not leaving because it's not that important. And again, like we mentioned in the live show, I don't think Twitter's ethos will change that much, even if Elon does take control. So I'm not leaving.
So I am staying for now. When this was first announced, I did start to look for other alternatives. And let me tell you, they are sparse and not much better.
So let me ask you before you go further. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did mean to cut you
You
off.
did.
um, is that because the competition, right? Is that because there is no platform that works exactly how Twitter works, or there's no platform that gives you the overall feel of what a Twitter is? If you can recognize the
Yeah.
difference.
So on the one platform that I did look at, the way it's formatted, it gives you the look and feel of a Twitter. They handle things in like these columns or something like that. But overall, basically it's a chat type of, microblogging type of thing. So as far as what the sites actually do, that's pretty much the same at the bare bones.
Okay.
I think primarily what the difference is, again, Twitter has been around for a minute, and it's the community that you build on Twitter. So you can go to these other platforms, you can microblog, you can probably find other communities. But again, Twitter's like the OG, so that's where
So
the
it's the
bulk of your interaction
familiarity.
is, right. And it's the feeling of community, because there are people on Twitter I probably wouldn't know them if I saw them, but we're friends on Twitter. We interact. It's one of those things where it's they're Twitter friends, and you build that familiarity with them. You build that I'll even say comfort level with them, as much as you can be comfortable with a stranger on a social media app. But it's just saying the community that you build. Like you said, Black Twitter, when something pops off in Black Twitter, if you're in Black Twitter, you know it immediately. Oop, yep, that's us. Or, I'm also in the Black tech Twitter community. So when stuff starts popping off with the Black tech folks, it's like, oh, here they go again. It's one of those things where you know kind of where your people are. And again, people talk about Black Twitter, but there's, white Twitter, there's Asian Twitter.
There's
People
finance
go
Twitter, there's sports
right.
Twitter, there's parent
There's a
Twitter, right?
group, there's a community for everybody. And if you are, intersectional, where you cross over into different, communities, which most people do because we are multidimensional people, but at the core, you still kind of know where your groups are and where people are grouped together. So I say that when I went to kind of find something else, I, didn't get that feel. And it may be because it's still relatively new. People haven't really migrated. People are still kind of holding the course for Twitter because, again, like we mentioned in the live show, we don't know how long this thing is going to take. And for now, things are the same. So I think a lot of people, there are some people who left and anticipation, and you can prepare for that. Like I prepared for an exit. I downloaded, my archive data, that same day, because it's the uncertainty. And when you're dealing with someone like Elon Musk, you have no idea what he plans to do. He's, egotistical, he's arrogant, he's very off the cuff, those type of things. So you don't know what's going to happen or the influence that he already has, because again, he's offering up 44 billion in cash, and the people at the top are primed to make a huge cash out. Who's to
Which is
say they won't
why
say,
they accepted the offer.
right,
Not to sidetrack you, but again, a lot of people are upset, or they feel a certain way about Elon Musk taking over Twitter. But my question is, or my challenge would be, why was he able to do it? And why is there no equal focus on that reason, right? And that reason being Twitter, as much of a community is, ain't all that profitable. Twitter is a
right,
business. I don't care what you say. Ultimately, Twitter is a business. The people at the top, i.e., the board and the primary shareholders who own the majority of the stock, they look at this as a business transaction.
right.
And a lot of people are putting their focus on Elon. And I personally believe that more of the focus should be on the board. We need to identify who these people are, who's the board, who's the primary shareholders, and be like, why are you giving up our community to this dude? And we don't know what he's about. I mean, we know what he's about, but we don't know what direction it's going to go, what the future holds, all this uncertainty, all these things. Why aren't we equally as mad as them? Because they are literally handing it over to this dude, right?
But we
So,
know the why. It's money, because
right,
Jack is about to make $1 billion. I think it was like 700
exactly,
972 million. So we know the why for the people at the top is cold hard cash. People, meaning the end users, we're thinking about this from the heart aspect, from the social
quit
aspect.
it,
They
stop
are
it,
thinking from the head aspect, meaning, how am I going to make this money?
right,
Because what's important is me making this money. Because the CEO, I think they said his payout's going to be 42 million. Run me my 42 mil. Y'all ain't ever going to hear from me again. Because
right,
you don't
exactly.
have to. I'm set. I'm good. Y'all the ones, unfortunately,
Well,
are
left
out
holding the
here
bag.
in God knows what type of state. And I think that's really the heart of this whole thing. Is it's the uncertainty for the end users, the uncertainty for the advertisers, because businesses, these companies, these, your Pepsis, your Cokes, your Delta, all of these companies, they have whole teams dedicated solely to Twitter. You
Mm-hmm.
have somebody in Uber, you left your phone in the Uber, you can tweet the Uber support, bam, they found you, your person is, go pick up your phone at XYZ. So it's whole company cultures that have whole large organizations with their
Departments.
company that their only thing to do is to look at Twitter and to work through things on Twitter, whether it be advertising, whether it be, shading
Customer
people, whether it be
support,
getting business,
telemarketing.
customer, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So I think the uncertainty from the business aspect, the uncertainty from the personal, the user aspect, is the uncertainty. While the business folks, they aren't uncertain about anything, and they
Right.
really don't care, because they
Which
know
is
they're
my
about to get this money.
which is my ultimate how people should end users, people like you and me, should feel about Twitter as well. This
Yeah.
is a business that's looking to turn a profit however they can. And for us sitting on Twitter upset that about this uncertainty, it's like I get it. I get it. Because you've built, like you mentioned, you've made friends, you've done networking, you've probably changed companies based on Twitter. You probably found the love of your life on Twitter, right?
Hmm.
So for all that, I get it. But at the same time, like again, my original statement was Twitter's free. Now, if it costs us $15 a month to create communities and to find loved ones and to find your network, and then that'll be a different story because now you got skin in the game. We
Right.
ain't got skin in the game because Twitter is free. So it's like y'all need to start looking at this as a business
Free.com.
transaction.
Right. Right. So let us know if you are staying or if you are going. Hit us up on Twitter or hit us up in our Discord as well for your thoughts on whether you're staying or whether you're going to ditch Twitter.